Hello, welcome everyone to to our webinar today for Belonging by Design. My name is Bruce Williams, and I'm excited to introduce in just a bit our presenter and panelists and help us dig into today's exciting topic. I think that you're going to be very impressed. Just a couple notes in terms of what this is about. This is part of a series that we have, a monthly series that features key thought leaders and selected topics. And in these presentations, um, they are the opinions and content of our presenters or guests. They may not necessarily be a direct representation of Harmony Academy. At the end of today's webinar, you will receive a recording to watch and to share with your colleagues. So please be aware and feel free to share after the fact. Last, this is a webinar presentation, so chat is disabled. However, if you have comments, observations, questions, anything that you want to channel as communication to us, there is a Q&A box. So feel free to use the Q&A box, and we will support you with communication back in that respect. So with that, let's look at today's objectives. We're going to look at practical design elements that make learning environments feel welcoming and predictable. We're going to look at strategies to support student well-being, and we're going to look at how belonging can start early and is strengthened through strong school-family partnerships and also through third-party resources like Harmony Curriculum. But first, we want to invite you to give us your thoughts just briefly through a poll. So Amanda, please go ahead and launch the poll about what you think contributes most to creating a safe, supportive, and engaging school community. So we invite you, please share your thoughts. Is it environment? Is it the forming of relationships, school-family partnership? What resonates with you, or what do you see? What's your observation been? Or maybe it's a combination of all those. Continue to leave that poll open just for a little bit more and see what we're able to take away from that. All right, so it looks like we have the results. And it sounds like it's a combination that you folks see that it's not just a thing, it's a mix of areas that have that impact, that bring things uh, that contribute to that safe, supportive, and engaging school community and environment. So appreciate everyone's input with that. Let's meet our presenter and panelists. I am thrilled to introduce Dr. DePaoli, who serves as the senior researcher and director for the Whole Child Policy Table at the Learning Policy Institute. And she also co-leads the Whole Child Education team, focusing on students, social, personal, and emotional learning, well-being, and the science of learning and development. And she gets involved in centering policy and practice around the whole child. We have Deborah Goodman, school counselor, Clark County School District, Las Vegas, Nevada. She has 31 years of experience as a classroom teacher and school counselor in Southern Nevada. She has dedicated her career to supporting and inspiring children through every stage of their development. And Dr. Melody Hawkins, assistant principal, Knoxville, Tennessee. Dr. Hawkins, I think if you can turn on your camera, please. Dr. Hawkins is an award-winning, accomplished educator, author, consultant, and visionary leader. She's recently completed her doctorate at National University in Organizational Innovation. So we're very proud of that accomplishment for her. And so I think this is going to invite an amazing conversation. And in keeping with practice at Harmony Academy, a part of our Harmony curriculum is what we call quick connection cards. So these are just a strategy and a tool that we share out with school sites and districts that help their students have a way to, get to know one another. And so our prompt, so they each of these cards feature a prompt, and today's prompt for Dr. DePaoli, Melody, uh, and Dr. Hawkins: what do you like best when you are at your own school or are visiting a school? So I'll just open that up.
I don't mind sharing first on this one. I love the energy and the spirit of the children. I get to work at an elementary school, so I'm with preschool through fifth grade, and the unpredictability as well of my day. I never know what I'm going to face every single day as a school counselor, and I love that. But their energy keeps me going. I love it.
Wonderful.
I'd like to add to that. I love their energy. I love the energy of being at school. I've had the chance to be in middle school as a teacher, high school as an administrator, district level work. Now I'm at an elementary school, and I'll tell you, no matter what level, what secondary or elementary, the energy is always amazing. I love to watch students grow, finding their confidence, and realizing that they're capable of so much more than they think.
Awesome.
It's been a while since I've had my own classroom, but all of these things resonate with me. I just love when you saw that spark in a kid's eyes when you know that they got something and they were excited about it, and just that you just can't beat it. It's really, I think, why so many of us have gone into education.
So true. Well, let's transition now. And Dr. DePauli is well versed, so she's gonna share the landscape right now in terms of what the research is telling us and what's out there. So with that, Dr. DePauli, I will hand it to you, and just prompt me every time you need me to turn a slide.
Great, thank you. It's great being here with you. And I like to say that all of this is from my research, but it's not. It's from a large body of research. But LPI has been really involved in what we call the science of learning and development. And that's where we know a lot of our understanding of how important belonging is comes from. So you can go to the next slide. So the science of learning and development emphasizes the impact of classroom environments on student learning. The research finds that students learn best in environments in which they feel a sense of physical, emotional, and identity safety, where they hold positive relationships with adults and peers and they experience belonging, purpose, and affirmation. These positive conditions promote healthy development, support students' cognitive growth and their physical, psychological, social, and emotional development. And they can also help to counter the negative effects of stress and trauma, which impact the brain in ways that biologically impair learning. Next slide. Oh, there you go. To elaborate on this, I want to highlight the connections between our physiology and emotional states and its impact on learning. Stress, as we know, is a natural part of life and development, and not all stress is bad. There's positive stress where our bodies experience a surge of hormones like adrenaline or cortisol that set off responses that can make us more focused, alert, and prepared. But on the other side of the spectrum, we have toxic stress, the kind that, when chronic and left unbuffered, can negatively impact development over time. When adversity and toxic stress are severe and prolonged, the body adapts and goes into a continual state of high alert or that fight or flight, where our bodies and brains are flooded with excessive levels of cortisol, which disrupt our normal bodily functions. We experience increased heart rate, blood pressure, and inflammation. It also affects our mental state, often leading to bouts of depression and anxiety and affecting our attention and memory. In contrast, oxytocin, which you see here on the right, which is sometimes called the love hormone, can offset the effects of toxic stress and produce resilient kids. Oxytocin is released when human beings have supportive and effectively engaging experiences, where it enables brain wiring and the neural connections that activate and support learning. In other words, when students feel a sense of belonging in their classrooms and schools, they're better equipped to learn and develop. Next slide. What I think is really interesting is we often think about belonging in the sense of a social belonging. That is when students feel that they're personally accepted, respected, and included by others in the school environment. And we know that that social belonging is very important, particularly during adolescence. And numerous studies provide evidence that students who feel a sense of belonging in their school or classroom community tend to experience more positive social, emotional, and academic outcomes, including greater engagement, educational motivation and attitude, self-concept, self-efficacy, and academic achievement. But what I want to point out this because I find this to be so interesting. We often are so focused on social belonging, which is so critical, but there's also other types of belonging that we need to pay attention to. A recent LPI study on math learning has elevated a developing research base, which suggests that in addition to that social belonging, it's also important for students to feel a sense of mathematics belonging or a sense that they are socially accepted as an able doer of math. It makes sense. Students often feel a sense of fear and anxiety related to math, which research has linked with numerous negative outcomes, such as reduced math achievement and a tendency to avoid college math courses and majors or career paths that require math. But creating classrooms where students feel a sense of mathematics belonging is more likely to see students succeed in math and hold better perceptions of math. And also, this is really true for students who have historically been stereotyped as being, quote, bad at math. So I think it's just really something that we need to pay attention to, that it's not just social belonging, it's also this feeling of they can succeed in that classroom. Next slide. So in the classroom, teachers play a central role in establishing the daily learning conditions that students experience. Through interpersonal relationships, classroom management practices, and instructional strategies, teachers can attend to the social emotional development needs of students. And when their developmental needs for safety, positive relationships, belonging, and meaningful engagement are met, they're better positioned to engage with cognitively demanding learning experiences. This all comes from something I'll have somebody drop in the chat, our soul design principles. And you can see how important just that environment filled with safety and belonging is one huge chunk of what makes a really successful learning environment. Last slide, please. So when we think about the support structures that foster safety and belonging, these are things like educators' regular and skillful use of shared values and norms, co-developed with students that guide relationships with respect rather than with direct punishments, as well as routines that enable responsibility and agency, de-escalation practices when situations become tense, and management of conflict through dialogue and reparation of harm. Consistent routines that support order and positive interactions like daily greetings or regular classroom meetings and shared classroom practices across classrooms, which build a foundation for a strong sense of community and belonging within the school. Restorative routines and settings that support reflection and build life schools. These could be things like community circles, places where students can diffuse and reflect, and other processes for explicit conflict resolution. And also creating inclusive settings in the school, including heterogeneous classrooms and socially supportive extracurriculars that are culturally affirming and communicate common expectations and opportunities. We also want schools which pay attention to the signs of trauma using a range of tools and resources to uncover and understand what children are experiencing, as well as healing-oriented practices, including mindfulness, counseling, and access to additional resources. And last, but not least, respect for students coupled with instruction that builds on students' cultures, identities, and experiences alongside efforts to reduce implicit and explicit bias in the classroom and school as a whole. These practices include affirmations that establish the value of each student, cultivate diversity as a resource, and encourage asset-based celebrations of accomplishments. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Bruce for our discussion.
Thank you so much, Dr. DePaoli. Incredible information, very helpful in terms of setting our context here. So let's now transition and have a conversation with our presenter, Dr. DePaoli, and our panelists today. So Melody and Deborah, Melody, I'll start with you. What resonated with you from Dr. DePauli's research that you have seen maybe in action in your school?
Something that really stood out to me was the emphasis on the environment. That the intentional planning and ensuring that we have our environment set up to support student belonging. That is what is going to support and really help our students to feel like they do belong. It's one thing for a school to say, we focus on belonging, and it's another thing to walk in the building and feel it. So that's something that I even think about at my school, things that we are very intentional about. I truly appreciate our executive principal for paying attention to what's up on the walls, what type of border is around the bulletin boards outside of classrooms. Is it inclusive? Is it representative of our entire school body, of the culture of all of our students? And thinking about the student experience, really thinking about what our students see and touch and feel when they're walking through the hallways. And that's something that we are always thinking about whenever we're, especially at the end of the week when we're just kind of trying to settle and get ready for the weekend. And then we kind of all pause and think, as adults in the building is leading the work, what does our environment say about what our focus is? What do we show about what we really care about? Where are we seeing that? Can we send someone down the hallway and they can look at our walls and tell that we really do care about every single student feeling like they belong and feeling like they're safe?
That's great. And so, Deborah, from your perspective, what have you seen that's effective in your school environments or in school environments in general?
Yeah. What really resonated with me was positive relationships. From the very front office, when people come into our school, our front office ladies, they know everybody's name. They welcome people. They acknowledge you. Everybody gets seen and heard when they walk into our school. The same with our students. It's so important. People want to be seen and they want to be known. We're a fairly small school of about 400, and every year it is my goal to know every single student's name. And we kind of have a rule at our school, the 2 and 10. If you're within 10 feet of somebody, you acknowledge them with a wave or one of these, something. If you're within 2 feet, you acknowledge them by their name. You say good morning, you say hello, you say hi, and you use their name. Really, really powerful for kids to have that sense of belonging, to know that, hey, the teachers, the adults, they know me. I am known at this school. Some of the other things, co-created norms. We do the harmony goals. Every single class at the beginning of the year has a conversation of what kind of a classroom do you want to have? They work together as a team to create their goals of how they are going to treat each other and how they're going to address problems when they come up. It's also really important, and I think, Melody, you've mentioned that you have to be intentional, right? The way that you set up your classroom, making sure that it is designed for a sense of belonging, arranging seats so that students can collaborate and talk to each other, making sure student voice is heard. One of the things we do at my school, and actually this is a district thing for us in Southern Nevada, we use a panorama survey. And one of the variables is on sense of belonging. So I look at that twice a year to find what is our percentage, how many kids are saying that, yeah, I feel like I belong at my school. And currently, I think it's about 70%, which sounds good. But to me, I'm like, okay, what's going on with that 30%? So I'm able to dig into that data and look at it and talk to those kids and find out, why did you score yourself lower? What's going on? What can we do to increase it? And again, this conversation in and of itself is helping to increase belonging, because they're like, wow, you saw that and you're not ignoring it. You're taking action on this data that I just answered a question. But I think all those little things that we do work together to increase that sense of belonging at our school.
Yeah, I think that that's great. In today's world, with fractured attention, right? Taking those moments to give an individual, a child, another adult, anyone, right? A moment of attention and just appreciation. I think that, just like you shared, that can go a long, long ways. Dr. DePaoli, where do you recommend that school leaders start if they're wanting to establish the structures that you referenced?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of this is going to be very echoing of what Melody and Deborah just said, but I think so many schools already have a lot of these things in place. So it's taking stock. What are the things that we're doing right from the start that we can keep doing and build on? I'm going to drop another tool into the chat, but like I said, just thinking about it and talking to the teachers across your building. What are they doing in their classrooms that they're seeing that's working, that's keeping kids having that feeling like they belong. I think the other thing too is Deborah mentioned surveys. We know so many schools are doing climate surveys now. I think in a lot of states, they're even getting support from the state to do climate surveys. Actually use that data to find out what's happening behind it. I think, Deborah, that was such a great example. It's like kids fill out these surveys and they think, oh, it's not going anywhere. It's not doing anything. But they're the ones you should be asking who, if they feel like they belong in the school. I think the same goes for parents and community members. Like, how are you finding out if those folks are feeling like they are welcomed in the school as well? So building and Deborah, I'm so glad you said relationships. Like relationships is the core to all of this. So I think those are the two big things. I think asking the right people, getting their voices heard, and taking stock of what is already working and figuring out ways to build upon it. I think sometimes we can overcomplicate thinking, well, we have to do this whole new thing that we have to adopt this new thing. And in some ways that adopting a new thing can work. But I think in so many ways, it's just finding the simple ways to build on what's already working.
That's great. Um, so, Melody or Deborah, how about impact that you've potentially seen on your schools in terms of, metrics that typically everybody is focused on, attendance or school achievement? Um, any observations, any anecdotes that you can share that relate, to how belonging has had an effect or an impact in that regard?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in with that if that's okay, Deborah.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So that's actually something that that we've been working really hard as a team is to show the value in belonging as it relates to student achievement, student growth from grade level to grade level. Of course, we're at school, so we're in the business of teaching our students to achieve academically. But with that, we also have to ensure that we're focusing on them as a whole child. So thinking about and talking about the social emotional development and how that factors in as well. So what we've been doing a lot is making sure that in every conversation when we're talking, well, to back up a little bit, to Dr. DePaoli's point, we focus a lot on student data, and we have taken stock of all of the different data resources that we have. Like we have so much data, right, within our schools. So we've really looked at, well, what data do we have and what does this say about our students? And so now every time we talk about a student during data meetings, we're not just talking about them academically, but we're also talking about their social emotional development and well-being, and helping each other to realize where belonging fits in with that. Something that we're doing that I've been really enjoying. Whenever we go into classrooms, myself and the other members of the instructional leadership team, whenever we go into classrooms, one thing that we're making sure to do is to actually count how many students do we see are engaged in learning. And engagement, we took the time to define it as a team to make sure we're all on the same page about that. And then we're taking that back and we're looking at, okay, if we have 10 out of 19 students engaged, that's a problem. What's going on with the other students who are not engaged? And showing our staff how engagement does impact belonging. A student whose head is down, it's not just because they're not wanting to participate. There's more in there that we really need to take the time to figure out about. And while we can celebrate that there were 10 students who were engaged, there were 9 who were not. And that's something that we need to look at. So we've been really trying to make sure that we're focusing on what data resources do we have available and connecting the academic data to the student's social emotional well-being, and that connecting piece is the belonging. What do we have that shows whether or not our students feel like they belong?
Thank you. Deborah, did you
Yeah,
have more you want to add on that?
I do. I can actually speak to the correlation between sense of belonging and chronic absenteeism. One of the big problems we have been working on for the past few years, really, is how to decrease our chronic absenteeism. And I'm sure this is no surprise, but the 30% of students who say they don't feel like they belong, they are also chronic absentee students. So there's definitely a connection between sense of belonging and actually attending school, right? So one of the things that we've been doing is finding out who are these kids who are chronically absent, checking their survey data, and then doing intentional intervention to connect them. So some of the things we've been doing this year are daily check-ins, meeting with that child every single morning. We actually have them color in on a calendar every day that they are here. And then we celebrate every 5 days that they have 5 greens in a row. They get a celebration and they get to choose something from the prize bag. We also make phone calls. If that child is absent and we don't know why they're absent, we get on the phone and we call that family and say, hey, Johnny's not here today. Is he okay? We miss him. We want him to be here. This lets the parent know that, they notice. They know that my kid isn't there. They are curious. They want to know why. They care. And it lets Johnny know as well that, hey, we noticed that you're not here and we want to fix this. We want you. We want you back at school. I can tell you that so far this year, we're only halfway through the school year, but right now we have a 10% increase in our chronic absenteeism rate as compared to this time last year. So just with those few interventions that we've been doing, which also relate to sense of belonging, we are, we're moving that needle in the right way. So I can tell you that there's definitely a common connection there.
That's awesome. And so just a tangential observation around this because recently I had the opportunity to be at a school district wide recognition. Actually, it was a county recognition for students, and got to sit at a table with the recognized student and some of the teachers and administrators that were part of that same school. And they were, somehow the conversation turned, but they just shared how, their community amongst themselves in terms of the teacher and the administrators was really strong. So it was, to me, it was really curious. Like, here is this, and this was early grade. So I think this was a fourth grader that was getting recognized. But it was fascinating to me that, that school had a component of the culture that overlaid to the relations of, the teachers and administrators. I'm just curious if any of you have anything you'd, share or observe in that respect. Is there a carryover, you think, or what are your thoughts if anybody has something you want to share?
Yes, there's definitely carryover. It's really hard to talk about student belonging without also talking about staff belonging, teacher belonging, EA, educational assistants or teacher assistant belonging, administrator belonging, front office staff belonging. It absolutely does carry over. I actually just left a meeting not too long ago with some of the leadership team. We were discussing ways that we can celebrate and spotlight and shine a light on our teachers who are doing incredible work and our educational assistants who are doing incredible work and make sure that we make them feel like they belong as well. For just like it is for students, making sure that we're getting constant feedback from them through surveys. I love the panorama surveys. We also want to do that same thing for the adults in the building, reaching out, getting information from them about processes or strategies that are or are not working. How do they want to be celebrated? How do they want to be recognized? And then doing the same with our school community, reaching out to organizations and making sure that they feel like they are a part of the work that we're doing in our school, after school programs that frequent the building often. All of that absolutely is a conversation that cannot be separate from what we want to do for our students. Our students mimic our behavior. We are models for them in every single way, whether we think they're watching or not. They are watching everything that we do, how we react, how we respond, how we interact with other adults in the building. And something that we use heavily in my building and have always used it in all the buildings I've been in is restorative practices. And we're always talking about restoring the relationship, and sometimes harm it might be caused within a community, but there's going to be a way to restore that back. Well, that's assuming that there was already a community to begin with, right? If there was never a community feeling, then it's nothing that we can restore back to. So establishing that community and establishing those model opportunities for students to see themselves in the adults that are around them, this conversation absolutely carries over into that space. And this is why it's so important to have every stakeholder represented whenever we're discussing belonging, whenever we're discussing what we want our students to see, feel, and experience at school. We have to make sure that we're including all of the adults and the students as well, but especially all of the adults who are going to impact that because they are models for what the students see.
Thank you. Deborah, did you want to add anything with that?
Wow, Melody, you just did such a great job of answering that question. 100%, 100% agree. This work is hard. This work is hard that we do. And we're dealing with people and we're dealing with parents and their babies. And, every parent is doing the absolute very best job that they can. And, they're entrusting us with their children. And it's important because, conflicts are going to happen. And at our school, one of the things we really try, and this is a big part of my job as a counselor, is to not ignore those conflicts, to teach children how to seek to understand each other, how to really listen to understand. Restorative conversations happen in my office every single day. It's one of the favorite parts of my job is teaching kids how to talk about the conflicts, how to talk through problems, and hopefully work through it and reestablish that relationship. But also with the adults as well, because, this job is stressful and it's hard. And, sometimes we have to do that work, even with the adults in our building and the parents as well, teaching them how to really listen to understand and to work to resolve problems together. And all of that goes towards increasing our sense of belonging, to let everyone know that their voice matters and we're here to listen and to learn from them too.
Thank you. Dr. DePaoli, there is a question that came in through chat or through the Q&A channel. Can you talk more about belonging data? And what methods do you recommend to teachers, counselors, principals?
Yeah, so I think, we've mentioned surveys. So I think that there's student surveys. I think there can be school-wide surveys. You could do classroom by classroom surveys, especially in high school, right? Where there isn't that always that connection point in between classes. I think, you know, kind of what I've been thinking about is Deborah and Melody have been talking too is, I was a fifth grade teacher and my students all moved on to another school in sixth grade. And what we know is that there's also like these inflection points where we've talked about them as disengagement points, but they're also like a proof point of whether or not a kid moving into a new school is feeling a sense of belonging. Right. And so we talk about early warning systems. And if those of you who are familiar with early warning systems, it's attendance, it's behavior, and it's course performance. I think looking at those three, especially when there are transitions, but all the time really, can be really helpful for understanding if a kid actually does feel like they belong in that school and are engaged. So, right, Deborah was talking about chronic absenteeism. Honestly, if you're not in school, you're not going to be able to feel like you belong. Behavior, if a child is suspended, they're not going to be in school. They're not feeling that sense of belonging, especially if it's happening numerous times, even if it's in school suspension. And then that course performance, I think that is a really good indicator too. I talked about the research from math, but I'm pretty sure that probably would track across all subject areas. If you don't think that you're good at science, if you don't think you're good in, English language arts, like you're gonna feel a different sense of belonging in those classrooms. So I think there's all kinds of different data points. And what I think is important is one, giving educators the time to sit down, look at the data together, and really like be able to analyze it and figure out solutions. It's one thing to have the data, it's another thing to actually be able to do anything with the data. And I wish that all educators had much more time to be able to do these types of things. I know when I was a teacher, we would sit down and look at that data, and it was really helpful. And I think just supporting, we talk a lot with like state policymakers and district leaders, and it's about giving that support for using the data in a appropriate way and a way that actually can really identify the students who aren't feeling like they have a sense of safety in that school.
Great, thank you. Well, we're going to move towards the end of today's webinar. I just want to share a little bit about us. So you've heard the research that our practitioners have shared that help highlight how important having a strong sense of belonging is, and how necessary it is as a foundation for schools today. So we're sharing a slide that you please capture the QR code, but it highlights the Harmony curriculum that we have in place, foundation supported. So this is open access. There's no costs involved that you as educators or educational leaders can get access to move that needle in your class, in your school site, in your district. So we encourage you learn more about Harmony curriculum. It's there. It's there for the taking. It's an incredible resource. And we have the URL that's in the chat, so you can access it that way. Additionally, today was just one piece of a series. So we have the Belonging Together um, expert-led grants and resources that we are creating access for those in the education community. These are 60-minute virtual sessions. In a moment, I'm going to share the different strands that we have. But this is an opportunity for you in educational leadership to get access into high-level leaders in this space that can help you bring effective practice into your district or school site. And so here's just an overview of the strands that are going to be available for you to access, and the thought leaders that are tied to each of those strands. So you will literally get access to these thought leaders in a process that enables you to bring all their knowledge, all their wisdom into your school site, into your district. So this is a powerful opportunity that is out there for you as districts. And we invite you to come and learn more about the strands, and you can select a strand or a couple strands. This is something that is fee-based, so you have to work that into the occasion, but it is an incredible opportunity. So with that, I want to loop back to our panelists. Any final thoughts that you want to share out? And also just very appreciative of all the great information that you've shared today. It's been wonderful. Final thoughts? I'll do a quick round on Deborah. Any last thought you want to depart with us?
Yeah, so I just appreciate this conversation so much. Sense of belonging is something as a school counselor is really important to me, to make sure that all of my students are feeling seen and heard and want to be here. So I'm really going to take some time to just really think about all the things that we learned today in our conversation and make sure that we're applying it here at my school as well.
Great. Dr. Hawkins, how about yourself?
Thank
Pardon.
you. Yes, thank you. It was absolutely a pleasure to be with everyone today. I love talking about how to make school better and best and better for our kids, for our students. I'm excited to look at the resources that have been shared that I haven't had a chance to look at. That's really exciting. And I'd also like to share one resource with everyone that might be a benefit as you continue to go down your own journey and thinking about innovative ways to create that sense of belonging in your schools. I just released a book a few months ago with Corwin Press. The book it centers the experiences of one group in particular, our Black girls who are stuck right in the center of ethnic, cultural, gender bias, racial biases. They're stuck right there in the middle of it. It centers their experiences and discusses practical ways that we can ensure that we are providing safe spaces for Black girls to thrive, to feel like they can achieve, to make their voices be heard. It really does include everything that we discussed today. So I encourage you to check it out, share it, discuss it, and please find me on social, Hawkins EDU on everything.
Wonderful. Dr. DePaoli, please.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say I celebrate the great work that Melody and Deborah are doing in their schools, and to all the educators that are on this, keep going. You're doing great. I know all educators want this in their schools. They want kids to feel like they belong. They want teachers to feel like they belong. They want these great environments. So like I said, keep up the great work for all of you out there. And thank you for having me.
Awesome. So for everybody out there, appreciate you joining us today. Don't miss our next webinar coming up February 18th, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, Leading Systems Where People Thrive with David Adams. and Dr. Mai Chi Lee. So I think you'll find that's going to be incredible information. And with that, our webinar is closed out. Thank you again, and best of luck out there as you move these initiatives forward in your sites and your districts.